Council. Today is September the 13th, 2022. It's 6 p.m. and we'll begin this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll have a prayer by Councilman Dale. So if you'll stand and follow me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our kind and most gracious Heavenly Father, we are grateful that we could come here tonight and do the business of the city, that we could look out for the citizens and take care of their needs, and to keep an eye towards the future and what must need be done to keep this city going straight. We're grateful, Father, for the police and the duty that they have so valiantly taken on. Please bless them and watch over them as they perform this duty. And as we pray for humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ.
We'll begin this evening with our public comments. If you have any comments, we'd ask that you come up to the microphone and state your name and your city and direct your comments to the council, but the council will not respond to your remarks. So we'll open it up for public comments this time. If anyone has any? None? Michael, you got any public comments? Okay, then having none, we'll go on to our next item and present. We've got some presentations tonight, and we're going to turn the time to Councilwoman Amy Alberts, and she's going to make that presentation. So.
Thank you, Mayor. What?
Blair will be late. He's on his way.
Okay, I just want to take a moment. I've been able to be of minimal help to Country Fair Days for 3 years now. That's been my position since I got put in, and it's been so remarkable. It's something that I loved before I got on the council, and now I love it all the more. And every year I'm a part of it, there's more miracles and more records broken. So in 2020, we had a worldwide pandemic, and a year when everything got canceled, Country Fair Days went on. I saw how hard they worked to tweak it and change things and try and get it in a way that you could social distance and still have Country Fair Days, which is no small feat, as you can imagine. And it was a great success. And then I saw in 2021 what I feel was a record breaker is how many people came out. There were so many people, and you could tell that we really missed being together. I think that record was broken this year with our record number of people of 2022. But I also understand we had a new record of the first time a thunderstorm not only happened during Country Fair Days week, but actually canceled an event. Is that correct? First time. All right. So we keep breaking records. I can't wait to see what you guys do next year. But as many of you know, this tradition just would not happen without all the many volunteers behind the scene. It's completely volunteer led and completely citizen led, and it's just something that I absolutely love about it, and wanted to make sure that we acknowledge each of those that are behind the scenes making this happen. So we would just like to take the time to thank them for their hard work and their respective events. Brady and Whitney Jakes, who spearheaded the golf tournament, and Matt Wren, who took care of the pickleball tournament. Michael and Amy Poth, who for the amazing Monday night dinner, which ran so smoothly. I heard so many compliments on how smoothly it was running. And the McKenna family for their beloved Let's Make a Deal night, which was great as always. Alex Keach, am I saying that right? Okay, Keach and the Lisa Carter family, who took over the highly successful Little Buckaroo on Tuesday evening. Natalie Browning kicked off Wednesday night's events with the Kids K, followed by Jill Cap and Jenny Paul, who put on the Old Timers baseball game in the park. And then that was followed by Movie Night in the Park, sponsored by the Youth City Council. Chris Buckley took charge of the 3-on-3 basketball games, and Curtis Brown, who arranged the swim party for Friday night. The memorial race on Saturday morning and all of their amazing prizes. We have Marty and Lisa Harwood to thank and Diana Cox for the amazing parade. Tawny Lynch made sure we had several booths and vendors to visit, and Molly Collins, Michelle Bowen, and Ben Bowen took care of the Saturday entertainment, which was incredible. So fun. Vicki Christensen was over the car show. Lacey Loveland made sure that the Pepsi wagon was at all of the events so we could indulge ourselves every night and then again. The fun hints for the sweet shop was arranged by Candace Mikesell. And then a special thanks to Vicki and Keith Christensen and Mike Paul, who were always in the background. Our wonderful public works staff who was on scene to ensure everything was set up and ready to go. And for the Davis County Sheriffs and our own fire department who kept everyone safe. To all of you, we give thanks. If you're here, if you would please come to the front so we can thank you properly. Come on up. Come on up, don't be shy. I know you're not out here. But... Thank you.
Thank you. Stay up for a second.
Oh, yeah. Stay here. Stay up here and have a little dinner. Wow. Oh, not our chairs yet. They're coming up separately. Sorry, I have a little. I'm opening up too many. Sorry. You were over the vendor booth, so. I know.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
That was Trevor's idea.
Thank you so much, you guys. I wanted to give a special and separate thanks, sorry for the confusion, to our chairs, Tawny and Tracy. These ladies start planning a year in advance, and they are behind the scenes for everything. Every day they are there, and I know how exhausting that must be. They have their families and their own lives that they're taking care of, and they put forth so much commitment and time to our citizens and to this wonderful event. And I just really want to tell them thank you for making sure this beloved tradition continues. Thank you. Come on up, please.
More bubbles.
Bubbles. Get it for the picture. Thank you all so very much. We really appreciate all your hard work and dedication for our city.
We do appreciate it very much. A lot of very hard work, and we're so grateful for all of you have done. And those that aren't here, maybe they're listening tonight. We sincerely appreciate all the work and effort that's been put into Country Fair Days. Truly a success this year. Thank you. Our next item, number 6, is we're going to move that item. It'll be moved to our next city council meeting on the 23rd. So we'll go into our quarterly report from the DCSO. If Sergeant Pope, are you going to?
Can we spray bubbles at you too?
If you want. All right. Well, it's been a good 4 months. It's been a hot 4 months. Goodness. Thankfully, I'm on Graves now, so I don't have to deal with the heat, but that's right in time for the cold. So we'll see.
All right, so this is from our quarterlies from May 24th to yesterday. And I'm Sergeant Pope. Again, I've been in EMS for 21 years. I've been in law enforcement for 15 years at the Sheriff's Office, and I've been over South Weaver for 5 years. So this is Elizabeth Pinto. She's our criminal analyst, which I think you guys have met before, and she's brought up some statistics for us again this quarter. So starting right here with our dispatch calls, some stats that we have right here. We had 300, I can't even read that from here, 86, I think it is, dispatch calls. And on view says 168. Those are actually not combined, those are separate. The on view are the ones that the deputies are actually starting on their own. So before, with the criminal analyst, this is the cool stuff that's coming out with it. Before, the traffic stops and everything else would be actually added into that call volume. And now they've actually been able to separate those. And so this is the true call volume that is not traffic stops. It is 100% just calls. So really cool stuff coming out with that. Non-criminal was 305, which actually that's the bulk of it. We like to see that. Non-criminal calls to be 305. Person crimes were 23. Property crimes, there were 12. Society crimes were 11. So that's like disorderly conduct, things like that, or societal crimes. Traffic stops, there were 137. Of those 137, 55 citations were given, and 19 of those were speeding tickets. And then there were 64 medicals, which we are, I think we've responded to a couple in the past 4 months, but for the most part, the fire department has taken that over and actually been able to handle that really well. So we haven't really had to respond to too many of those. As you can see, for the school zone patrol, we kind of put that one in there because as of August, we were kind of asked to maybe put a little more emphasis on that because of kind of the traffic and everything that's going on in there. And so they kind of separated that out. And as you can see there, I remember or see the percentages, but 7 of those are at Highmark Charter, 15 of those are at South Weaver Elementary. And I think it has a percentage mark on it. I think one's 17% or something. I don't know if anyone else can see that from where they're at.
31.8 and 68.2.
Okay. Yeah, well, it happens. I guess I'm getting older too, huh? 5 years here. So yeah, we've been trying to hit those school zones a lot harder recently, especially with some of the traffic issues that were brought up to us with Highmark Charter and everyone coming in and the influx of that. So we actually haven't seen too much violations really. People are actually doing pretty well when they see us sitting in there. I don't know how they do when we're not. So someone else maybe turn on to the next slide there. And then if you'll click on that.
I selected something on the other screen.
Oh, okay. It's all good. So these are our hours we have logged from our deputies over the last 4 months. And as you can see, the collective down at the bottom, there's about 1,700. I can't.
1259.
1,259. All right. So average was 78.7. I do remember that number right off the top of my head there. And as you can see, there are some hours where there were more, other weeks where there were a little bit less. Through the summer, we get a lot of calls in all the other different cities. We kind of try to rotate that coverage in and out. And so that's where you get the influx of a few more, a few less here and there. Are there any questions about the hours that we have listed there?
First of all, do you like how I raised my hand?
I do. I
Okay,
love it.
all right. Sorry, that was a reflex.
It's great.
Okay. So my question on that is, does that count when we have more than one? I know it's going to sound stupid, more than one sheriff at the same time.
So a lot of this, we actually have 2 deputies riding in one vehicle, but only one is reporting it. So you actually have a couple more deputies in at a time where the hours aren't being counted. But this is both. This isn't just one deputy. This is anytime we have a deputy in there, we try to cover it unless they're double covered.
Okay,
There's 2 in one vehicle.
okay, so safe to say it's per vehicle?
Yes, per vehicle.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question about the citation?
But you have to raise your hand.
Oh, there you go. You have to have bubbles too.
I don't have any bubbles. I gave them all away. The citations was 19 out of 55, or sorry, 19 speeding tickets
Speeding,
out of
mhm.
55.
Yes.
What were do you know off the top of your head what the other citations would have been for?
I honestly don't know for sure.
Okay.
I didn't break those down to look into it.
That's okay.
From what I've noticed, a lot of them are stop sign, registration, insurance, DUI, that type of stuff. We had a couple DUIs this month, but I didn't put them on here. They were just kind of added into it, and I didn't separate the arrests. If that's something you guys would like in the future, we could do that. But what would you guys like to see?
I was honestly just curious.
Sure.
I don't know. Do you guys have a preference?
I want to see specifically how many of the, well, not even citations, really. If it's a traffic stop, I'd love to see the breakdown on what the traffic stop is and why out of 137 traffic stops, 19 people were stopped for speeding. And is this 3 months?
It's about 3.5, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know where I live.
Mhm.
Y'all can get that within a day.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one of the things that we asked specifically about, was to be able to, number one, move more towards zero tolerance, and not everybody who is speeding is actually just a good person that got caught. There is hyper speeding going on right now, and those people need to be shut down. Those that are going 5 over, I understand, but those aren't the ones you guys are pulling over. So it just, I'm just kind of confused on, out of the 137 traffic stops, why there would only be, out of that total, what, yeah.
Part of
19,
it, I've asked my
7%.
crew. I've asked a few guys on why, what makes you write a citation and doesn't at this point in time. And a lot of their answers have been, well, we have inflation, we have increased fuel costs, we have all these other things. So I feel like I can enforce the law by pulling them over and giving them a warning and talking with them about it versus giving them a citation and causing them a more hardship on them. So they're trying to kind of not have more of a hardship on people, yet they're still stopping people and trying to enforce the law in that sense. And so I think that's where you're seeing the 19 for speeding. That's not saying that they only pulled over 19 people who were speeding. That just means they cited 19 people for speeding. So I think it's kind of hard to weed that out and find out exactly what the stop was for. We don't document that. When we pull someone over and then we clear, we don't document it was pulled over for speeding. We just document whether we gave a citation or not. And so that information would be very difficult to pull out, what they were actually stopped for in the first place.
So if we had, I don't know, everybody on the council and the mayor say to you something about, or to the sheriff, how can we get it so that those that are speeding are getting a ticket?
I don't know if you can. Honestly, there was a law passed about 5-6 years ago that said that you cannot make a quota. You
Not
cannot.
a quota. I'm saying if they're
Right.
speeding,
That's what I'm saying. But if you tell an officer to write a citation, you're basically doing that, and that's where we get into a gray area with that law. And so you can't really say you need to write a citation on every single stop you make, because then you're technically moving into that area where that law was made for. So it's a difficult area. We can encourage our guys, which honestly, the number that we have right now of citations is up immensely from previous months, previous quarterlies that I have actually presented on. We've gone from like 15 to 20%. We're up to over like 40, just over 40%. So we've actually gone up a lot. But to say zero tolerance, we're writing a citation on every single traffic stop, that's not too feasible, and there is a law. So that's kind of where.
how big is a fine for that law? Maybe willing to pay.
I honestly don't know. I haven't seen a violation yet. I hope not to.
I have a
But I-
question. Oh, sorry.
But I think you can sense the frustration we're having.
I hear you.
I mean,
And
we've got citizens in this room that have had issues. You know, I've had them, and I had another one as the truck was going so fast that he couldn't even make our corner at the top of Mountain View Drive. And that's not a heavy turn.
sure.
So, I mean, when we keep on seeing things like that, I mean, it's tough to really say things are happening the way we feel they need to be.
Sure.
I'm
Speaking from
stopping that.
personal experience,
Yeah, and
when I
know
was
you-
working on
you've
day
done-
shift,
yeah.
Tuesday through Friday, I drive through the city all day long. I'm driving through, and I keep my radar on, and really during the middle of the day and even in the morning, there really isn't as much speeding as
Yeah.
you would think. I see cars that look like they're speeding, they're actually only like 5, maybe miles an hour over. So I don't stop them, but I just haven't seen it myself. Now, at nighttime, I haven't been working nights.
Yeah.
I start working nights actually last couple weeks ago. So now I'm working 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. So now I'll get a new view of the city and what time things are happening.
Yeah.
So if there's a different time that things are going on, I might be rush hour coming home. But we can talk to our,
6 a.m. is definitely one that
Okay.
we've been able to, I mean, I can go outside and within minutes.
Sure.
Have someone, and yeah, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the 35-mile-an-hour guys.
Right.
We've got some motorcycles right now that are racing and doing stunts on the road. So I mean, it's just getting worse and worse. So
and
I think I've
sure,
beaten
sure,
the horse
sure.
on it. So
Yeah.
I'll let others jump in. Sorry, I'm just.
And that's
upset about
great.
this.
That's things that I can bring back to our guys and our sergeants when they're having their briefings with their guys. Hey, this is what South Weaver would like us to concentrate on. And so that's great information that I can take back to them.
And I have heard that there are more sightings of police everywhere, that you guys are definitely getting out there. But like I said, there's specific times, and there's
Okay.
specific times that it's just a few people driving down the road. But-
Okay.
So anyways.
I'd almost say though, the visibility of the officers is more of a deterrent than a ticket, in my mind.
And that works for those that are, whoops, I was going over the speed limit. Not for those that already know they're flying down the road and they know they're doing it. And that's really the only people I want to impact. I'm not worried about somebody is heading to school really quickly and wasn't paying attention, they're 10 over. But I am specifically worried about, we've got kids now walking to the playgrounds and to their bus stops. And these guys aren't just accidents. They do it every single day. They're flying down. Some of them even honk and some of them do other things. So, I mean, it's just, it's a small group that needs to be stopped.
And we have stopped a few that were complaints on the Facebook page, reckless drivers. We've actually went to their house, had conversations with them and their parents, and sat down with them about that.
That's so awesome.
And I've noticed that it kind of stopped. So if we can address that, if people can get license plates, things like that, we will absolutely follow up and address that.
Okay.
So if you guys can help us when you do see it, that'd be great. We can use all the help we can get. So.
I just had a quick question, just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
When you give somebody a warning, does it show up that they've been warned previously?
So it kind of depends. The deputy has a choice on whether they do what's called a local file. When we do a FI card, it's what's called field interview card. We can fill that out and say, I stopped this person, I've given them a warning for this. The deputy kind of has a choice whether they do that or not at this time. And so I do it on people who I think are probably going to offend again, or might possibly. I'm kind of like, I'm not sure. I'm going to mark it down, and that way I know. So if they get stopped again, it pulls it up and I can see that. If they get a citation, that obviously pops up again. And then if we give them a written warning, even, it's still warning, but it's written, that actually goes on their license. Their state actually will list that they've gotten a warning on their license. So I've actually started to, if you're going to release people, maybe do a written warning on that so we get it documented.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. We go back to that PowerPoint there. Okay. There were not very many large significant events. I love that. That's great. So one of them, though, was on June 29th at 7:54 p.m. Female was caught by homeowners after entering an open attached garage and spray painting graffiti on the interior of the garage. She has several non-extraditable warrants, which means she has warrants from either out of county or out of state that they will not actually come pick her up for. And a history of controlled substance use. Deputies found several items strewn across Raymond Way and Harper Lane. Items found include a credit card not belonging to her, a cell phone, and a pair of camouflage sweatpants. Charges were referred to criminal mischief and burglary, and she was taken to the receiving center for mental health issues. So I think we've talked to you guys about the receiving center previously and how that's really helped out our county, and it's really kind of been a big thing that we're proud of. So we realized that she had kind of a mental health and a drug addiction issue, brought her there, and hopefully she can get the help she needs without having to go down the criminal side of it. So that was one of them. There we go. The long one. July 29, 12, 13 hours. This is one we've been on a couple times, but deputies were dispatched to a home where a neighbor called saying that he's yelling at a female, that it was a male yelling at a female and walking in and out of the garage. Upon arrival, the male stated it was just a verbal argument. Stuff was broken inside, but he wasn't going to press charges. The male inquired who had called and was adamant about finding out who. He was told it was anonymous. The male inquired who had called and was, I apologize, I read that again. He asked for the phone number, which the deputy refused to provide. He said he was going to ask the neighbors who called and tell them to mind their own business. He was told actually not to confront neighbors, just to leave the situation alone and not confront people. Approximately 40 minutes later, the male called dispatch. He called, stating that his neighbor had threatened to shoot him with a gun. Deputies responded and found the male standing in the road with several neighbors, all of them yelling. The male stated he went to the neighbor's house and very politely inquired of his neighbors who had called the police. He said eventually a verbal argument occurred, and the neighbor threatened to shoot him by using his fingers in a gun position. The neighbor stated the male was told to leave. The property refused and used threatening language as well as "come to my house and I'll show you what a good shot I am." The male was eventually arrested and charged with disorderly and trespassing. So that one actually took up quite a bit of our day because of kind of the multiple calls and issues and things. The only other thing that I really want to bring up that I didn't put on here was really appreciate the calls for the squatters that have been going on. Mayor, I think you were one of them who called it in. I actually had driven through that parking lot several times, and he was tucked away in that corner that I didn't even see him. And so again, your guys' eyes like helping us with that is awesome. Like I didn't even see. I was sitting in the parking lot when Dave called me, and he's like, "Yeah, he's right in the corner." And I drove over there. How did I miss this? So I apologize, I missed that, but I really do appreciate the calls. And I've known at that actual week, I noticed like 10 more squatters that we actually stopped from parking and camping in our parking lots. So I appreciate that. Right.
Thanks, Bridget. My name is Elizabeth. I'm the investigative analyst at Davis County Sheriff's Office. I have statistics from the same date, so from May 1st to September 12th. So in front of us, we have a general overview of crimes investigated by type. This is the first quarter in quite a while. I don't know if you've noticed, but I apologize. So our person crimes are at 57.9% for this last quarter.
Can you speak into the mic for us?
Oh, I'm so sorry about that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Our person crimes are at 57.9%, and our property crimes are at 36.8%. And I apologize, the colors are mismatching. So if you could go to the next slide for me, please.
So just a quick, this is all South Weber?
This is all South Weber. Yes, this is crimes that were investigated by
Thank you.
DCSO in South Weber over the last couple of months since May 1st. So, and I do apologize about this. So the person crimes are in red in this graph and the property crimes are in blue. That was a mistake. I apologize. So for person crimes, our largest victim is unfortunately children. We have 18.4% of our total crimes are child abuse. Just 2.6% is child neglect. Our other higher occurrences of person crimes are sextortion, or sextortion. So, and then for property crimes, fraud takes up 10% of our crimes for property, as well as vehicle burglary takes up another approximately 8%. We did have an evade, which is a crime against society, and which is the orange, and the green is death investigations. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions for me?
I've got a quick question. Previous years, we've had quite a bit more auto break-ins. It seems this year that we really haven't had as much. Is there something that we've been doing or haven't been doing, or is people locking up now, or what seems to be going on?
Sure. It would be hard to give an answer to that just because I don't have all of the reports sitting in front of me of previous years. It could be a number of things. 99.9% of the time when vehicles are broken into, it's because the vehicle is left unlocked and keys are left within the vehicle. Locking up your vehicle really does save you. We see every once in a while on a blue moon, we'll see somebody who's physically breaking into a vehicle. But outside of that, it's vehicles that are being left unlocked. That absolutely could have something to do with it. Also, too, if we have repeat offenders that are that are being incarcerated, that can also help the situation as well. Again, it's really hard to give a straightforward answer that is completely consistent across the board without looking at those reports in front of me.
Part of it, I would say, is Elizabeth going to her own horn here, but before she became our analyst, we didn't have stats where we could pinpoint in the city where these vehicle burglaries were going on, where they were most common, how they were being hit. Now she actually prints out these red spots, heat spots, basically throughout the city that says this is where it's happening. And so we've been deploying to those areas, and I think that's where we're kind of getting that as well, is because we actually have a criminal analyst now that is giving us this information.
Thank you, sir.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Any other questions?
So I have a question for Sergeant Pope, but several times ago, maybe a year ago, you were talking about the speed limit on 475 East.
Yes.
And it was kind of confusing to have a 30 mile an hour. Is that still the case? And if so, what would you recommend there?
I don't think so. I think actually we've got the new speed signs up there that are showing people speed. I personally have noticed on that section of the area where we have those, it seems like it has slowed down. The area that's still, I think, kind of quick is when people are coming down from either the highway or from the toll road, and they're still blazing right through there. So that's where we're still kind of trying to watch for. But the speed limit through, once you hit that yield sign, I think it's actually stayed a lot lower. And we would have to pull, I think, the statistics from those to find out. But from what I see, it seems like it's going down.
Thank you.
Would it help if we moved the digital sign for southbound further north?
I kind of thought that too, because it seems like it's a little far down there and maybe behind, I don't know if it's behind trees or what.
It's
I
just
don't know
most
if
of the
it
way
is.
down the road.
It's just 2/3 of the way down.
Right. I think if we moved a little further back, I think that would help. Yeah.
Thank you. Your presence there has been appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just thank you both for all your hard work, and statistics are hard, but it's good to know what's going on. So thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks again.
Thank you very much. We appreciate all your
And thanks to all of our sheriffs here.
hard efforts, and
Yeah, thanks to
we
everyone.
wanted to recognize that we do have our sheriff here tonight, Sheriff Sparks. Thank you for coming.
See ya.
Thank you.
Thanks again to all the committee members.
Wow.
Okay, our next item is our consent agenda. We need to have approval on August 9th and August 23rd of 2022 minutes and the August check register. Looking for a motion to approve.
Mayor, I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Seconded.
The motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next item is flag volunteer license. Dave, would you like to take?
I don't
discuss this a
necessarily
little
have
bit?
any more
Have
than
any more
what's in
to say
the
on that? Do we need-
staff report there, but I'm
Okay.
happy to answer questions if there are any.
Questions I'd like to ask?
So I just have a couple questions on it. We haven't had it obviously in the past. Why was it initiated? So I think the history of this, and maybe Michael can speak better to the history of it than me, but he took this on when he was a member of the city council. And then when he left, it remained with him. I don't know if anybody else really wanted to take it at that point, or he continued to volunteer and was willing to do that. And then there's been questions at times about buying the flags and where the location of the flags should be or shouldn't be, or things like that. And this allows it to just be all out documented in a situation where as a city, we are supporting this, we want this, we're grateful for this. And we're essentially granting a license to an individual to use city property in this way. So that it volunteer, it remains with the individual. If Michael chooses not to do this at some time in the future, then it doesn't transfer to anybody else. The city would have the need to decide what to do at that point. If there's somebody else that's willing to volunteer, and we could do something similar, or if we need to find a different process. And just essentially documents this and creates expectations and understanding of how it works.
Thank you. And Mike, I really appreciate you doing it. It's great to see him out there. The other two questions I had was the map obviously shows city property. We always have it along the berm by the gravel pit. That wasn't included. That's because it's not our property.
Correct.
So does Michael have to get their permission, or we just already have an agreement with
ahead,
the gravel?
Mikey, you can.
Yeah, feel free to step up and answer that, but yeah, that's,
Michael Poff, 154 Harper Way, where that stuff is from. No, we just didn't discuss, if the city, as part of their discussion process with the gravel pit, could just assume permission. Everything else is on the city property. I'll just tell you guys, when I did them last, for Labor Day, I had a couple of people that were walking their dog, like, hey, thanks for the flag. So I think a lot of people appreciate that. If I could, just real quickly, I had my friend who's an attorney go over the agreement. He's totally fine with that, but he pointed out something to me. He's like, you know, David Larson looks like Peter Townsend. I was like, I don't see it. And he showed a 1993 YouTube video where he was on the Late Show with, what was the guy's name? Letterman. You guys gotta check that out, because I can't get that out.
I thought you were gonna bring up something like, we need to know about this flag policy, but you went off in left field there.
No, just want to tell you guys, so Mayor Joe's son did this as an Eagle Scout project. And anyways, we tried it. Nobody wants to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning on a holiday and put flags out. So kind of just something I've done, but I enjoy doing it. My mom will drive with me. I make my kids do it sometimes. We drag the neighbor kid along with us. But it's fun. And so when the flags were needing to be replaced, we've had some discussions. Anyways, long story short, we got new replacement flags. People donated. I sent out little cards of appreciation. Daughters of the Utah Pioneers have sewed some sleeves to go over the flags. When we roll them up, we can help keep them a little longer. So shout out to them. They just did that this last week for their days of service, whatever. So just was a little nervous, you guys, because when they were talking about that speed, and I got that red car flying down 475. I was probably going 32, maybe 33 miles an hour, and Pope, he's not here, sitting at the top of the hill in his thing. So luckily I didn't get that ticket. Yeah, I tell you, when I saw that car, I put no, I'm glad that the city and we have an agreement. What was somebody approached me this year. The guy was returning from service, from deployment. They put the flags up for him. That was really good. We've had the occasion to do it. People returning, a couple of times when unfortunate situations. But anyway, when you see somebody come back from the service and the communities rally around, really adds a little bit more emphasis on community here, right? Country Fair Days and being involved. And I'm of the opinion that if you want something nice in your community, sometimes you gotta step up and do that. And so I know the youth council came out and helped a couple of times. Working with the youth, you know, they don't like to get up sometimes.
No.
So a lot of
Which is why we really appreciate you doing this, because we couldn't get them out of bed. So we appreciate it.
And you know that, right? You do something as youth council, a lot of times it's doing it. And scout leaders, same thing, that's been involved in the community activity, realize that most of them. Thank you guys for that though, and I'll sign whenever you guys are ready. Did you guys have any other questions?
I just had one last one here, sorry.
Go ahead.
From the legal standpoint, since Mike has the license, does that mean nobody else can? It's not exclusive. If somebody else wanted to put out stuff, do they have to go through the city for permissions? Nobody has. It just brought up the thought that since we're licensing him to do it, does that exclude others from wanting to do something?
I think what it does is it makes it clear that if you want to use city property, then you have to approach the city, right? That yes, it's public property, but that doesn't mean anybody can go and just put out displays, so to speak. And so, yes, it helps solidify that kind of relationship of how we manage city property on behalf of the community.
Good, thank you.
And I'll just add, there's been some concerns. It'll just be United States flags. And I think that may be part of the reason why the city decided to go that route.
Yeah, there were two primary legal concerns. One is just anytime you're using city property to make sure it's done safely and that you allocate responsibility by those who are doing it. The risk of putting up a flag is obviously minimal, but needed to be there. And then the other was what was just mentioned, that we need to make sure they're patriotic displays and not other forms of speech.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Just a quick question. So you mentioned the donations that came in. Is that the donations are going through the city or are they going through the citizen?
Through the citizen. That's the other part of this agreement, that it kind of clarifies those lines, that the city is not the ones that are soliciting for donations or things like that. He is volunteering to organize all of that and take care of all of that and supply that. It doesn't preclude us as a city from contributing or being part of supplying flags, right? We still have that option, but it doesn't put the city in the position where we're providing the flags. He has the ability and kind of the leeway to accomplish that however he sees fit.
I'm sorry. To that, just know that I did give an accounting to the city manager, just so he felt like there was no shady.
Yeah. I know that at one point there was a kind of a solicitation through social media. There was a great response for that. And Michael was great to show all of the donations that were provided through Venmo and the receipts of all of the flags, right? Just to, make sure that people understood that they weren't donating to the city directly, although it was a community event, so to speak.
Okay. I'm always looking at the next. I mean, we all know Michael, and there's a level of trust there. But when he decides he no longer wants to do it, and somebody else comes in, I mean, I just think also we have to look at who's going to be running the business, whether it's actually going to be a for-profit, whether they're going to be using the city's name as they're trying to get donations and those kind of things. But yeah. It's a good service. It's a great service. I just want to make sure that we're covered.
Yeah, this agreement is limited to a license to use the property for the specific purpose of displaying the U.S. flag on holidays.
Okay.
Period. And not for anything else, and not for any other individual. It does not grant license to use the city's name or to borrow from the city's authority, so to speak, to run a business enterprise. We just drafted it so the city's not a part of that at all, and if he needs resources to help him do it, so be it. But it's not the city doing that part of it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Michael. We do appreciate that. And thanks again for the mail at Country Fair Days on Monday night. You and your wife did a fantastic job.
That was a lot of work, and you
That
did a
was a
really
whole
good
lot
job.
of work that went into that, and
I'm glad that it's back to tradition.
it didn't go unnoticed. I
Yeah,
want you to
that
know
was
that. Thank you so much.
Well, while you're at that, thank you guys. Right in front of you guys. I don't think if you guys would have been there helping, it wouldn't have gone quick.
But we love being a part of it, so
Yeah, we enjoyed that.
please let us
so
come back next year.
If you
We
do it
enjoyed it.
next year, we'll be happy to help you.
And thank you for your work with the flags, truly. Appreciate it.
Okay.
On that note, I'll move to approve the flag volunteer license.
Okay,
Seconded.
have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next item on agenda is the resolution 22-44 moderate income housing plan. Trevor, do you want to take this?
No.
Where's the bubble gun?
I don't want you to take it either.
No,
Let's just
absolutely.
skip this.
Absolutely. So this, what's included in the packet is an amendment to our current moderate income housing plan, amending the selections and adding the implementation plan for each of the selections. Now, what you have in the packet includes the 4 options that you had identified at the last meeting. With that does not mean that the resolution has to continue to have all 4 of those.
what you'll do is when you make a recommendation, if you do that tonight, you recommend it with an amendment to. You can do the 4 if you want to include all 4 of them, or you amend it and remove the option that you wish not to include. Just as a side, I attended the Utah Association for Planning conference this last week, and everyone is in our same shoes and same feelings about this. So we're in good company with all the other cities that are having to grapple with this. We were able to have kind of the point person from the state that's going to be compiling all of these together. And he told us, kind of shared that he's anticipating that the implementation plans will either be vague, which is similar to how we have ours, or very detailed, just depending on where a city's at in their planning, and they're not going to ding any city for the complexity or the simpleness of their plan. So so as you go through the implementation, I think the implementation is really important. If you want to make any changes to those implementation plans, tonight is the time to do that. We do have to just have this done prior to October 1. So approved, and I have to have it submitted prior to October 1. So if there's substantial changes from tonight, we can always bring it back in the next meeting to approve. We don't have to do it this evening if you're not feeling comfortable with the options and with the implementation plans. With that, I'll turn it back over to you and answer any questions or go through any possible implementation plans or tweaks to those plans as necessary.
Hey, council, any questions?
Just a real quick one, just because of the way you stated it. Now is the time to voice them. Are you saying that once we make this implementation plan and it's turned into the state, it's locked? Those are the choices, and we don't have the flexibility to alter it, change it, or swap it around?
No, we can always alter our plan at any time. I just meant that as we are tonight or in 2 weeks from now was the time to modify, because that will be the plan we submit to the state for this year. If we make any changes to our moderate income housing plan for the next year, we would submit that with our next year's reporting in October. So every October, I submit reports on what we've done, what changes have happened throughout the year.
Okay, and still it's the fact that if we don't get done what we say, our pledge, if you will, there's no fee, as long as there's fine or do-si-do or any type of punishment we're going to get if we don't have that.
No, the only implications is just possible funding if we don't have a plan with the current options as stated. If we have a plan and we haven't progressed it, or it hasn't moved past a certain point, they're not going to ding that on us. I think what we'll see is if there's continued, there's movement that hasn't happened at all over the next 5 years, then they might look at that as something. But I think what the state will do is they're just marking trends at that point, looking at the plans as a whole and seeing if there's a trend toward, progression or not.
Okay, thank you.
May I add, one of the points that's come out in some of the conversations I've had recently about moderate income housing plans and kind of the state's approach on this is that they're looking for kind of the good faith effort, but they don't feel like this is the end game. And what I mean by that is we're doing what we can, we're putting our plans in place. They're really emphasizing this implementation plan concept so that we then can track it over time. And they really just want us to start trying things as cities to see if we can do things to make a difference in the housing sphere. They recognize as a state that we're not building housing, we're just planning for housing, but that they want us to start putting efforts in that way to hopefully start moving the needle on the macro scale, recognizing that each city on the micro scale only has a certain ability to affect change. And so they're simply trying to put parameters in place that can start moving the state as a whole down this path to affect housing. And they recognize that we're all kind of learning together and working together to try to come up with solutions on the housing front. And so they're looking at this very much as a do your best right now, and we're going to work together over time to see if our best can get better.
I was to a meeting with the mayors and the Speaker of the House, Brad Wilson, and he expressed those exact comments that Dave just made. So there's nothing that's a hard line or you must. They're just looking for something to be done. So thank you, Dave.
Okay, Mayor, on that note, I would love to entertain the following three options: B, E, and I. B is demonstrate investment in rehabilitation or expansion of infrastructure, which we do with our capital facility plan. And we talked about the projects we have that could fall into that category. E allows us to do external accessory dwelling units, which allow us to write our code for that. And I allows us to, similar to our short-term rental code, but make it a long-term rental for single occupancy developments. I think is the smallest impact on our city and on our staffing resources to do those three.
Okay, is that a motion?
I hope not.
Not yet, not yet.
Other comments?
Larry, did you have something?
No, I mean, I actually agree with that, so.
Actually, right.
Okay, well, I better voice my opinion then. Those three, I agree, are the only ones that I'd really want to do. However, since along with what I voiced last time, we all are required to do two. And I don't think we have a lot of space in our city to practice and try to get something right and find out that it's wrong.
We have to do three.
Oh, I thought it was,
It's three,
I
that's
wrote-
why, because we talked about bringing 4 back.
Yeah, there are
And-
4 that are
but
brought
there's-
back and you need to.
all right,
We have
I
to do-
misheard then, because I wrote down 2 from our discussions last time, that 3 was encouraged, but a minimum of 2 is what was written in the presentation, I thought.
So I can see where the misinterpretation. So if we look at our previous plan, there were 3 options that we had on our previous plan. One of those options translated exactly over, and that was option B.
Yeah.
And so perhaps I mentioned that we would just need to
Have
select
2
2
more.
others on top of B if we continue with
Okay.
B. I apologize that that was a
No, sorry.
misunderstanding.
So then my other thing is, like I said last time, who do we apply for an exception to? Like I said, we're a small community. We don't have the room that Layton does, or, Bountiful, where we can do all this type of stuff. I mean, if we need to do 3, we do 3. And these 3 I can get behind. I just think that they didn't think or take into account our city's situation and Sunset and a few other cities that are in our county when they make these sweeping guidelines and expectations. And if it's just going to our representative and voicing it, even though we need to go through all these, okay, that's the only way we can go. But that's my concern. And we just don't have a lot of space to practice and then find out, oops, that really wasn't the best thing. We had a lot of push several years ago to go high density in South Weber. We went high density and we were meeting, and then they changed the goalposts and suddenly we were no longer meeting. And I just don't want to have a similar thing happen where we're being pushed to act like a big city with plenty of extra acreage, where if we make a mistake, we can't get it right with anything else because because there's nothing else. But sorry about that. Not even the water. Anyway, those are my thoughts on it.
So I echo some of your concerns, Quinn. There's nothing written, as far as I'm understanding, in the law that was passed regarding any types of exceptions. I did bring up at the meeting that the mayor pointed out that this, of the 24 options, 19 of them didn't even approve them. We just had to wipe those right out. The meeting that we had, is hoping to continue in some format or another where we're including our legislators so that we can continue to work on bills or not work on bills, but work towards this solution to this problem. But as far as this particular bill, there was no exceptions made. So hopefully with some feedback from all of us, we can continue to let our legislators know that all sizes fit none. So one size fit none, or all sizes.
I think that was brought up by several mayors. They're all kicking back on this. And I think, you know, Brad Wilson, he, you know, kind of came back and said, you know, we're going to work with you. We realize this. We're going to work with the cities. So I think that they're going to take a look at this.
I hope his words are true. I have heard such words from Brad Wilson.
Yeah.
I hope he holds to them. It's on the record. You can add that, Michelle. I don't mind. I do have a question about and I know that I'm the one who brought this up, so I'm just trying to better understand. Single occupancy developments would be, we're talking about renting out by the room is what we were specifically talking about, but the single occupancy developments, that phrase, does that mean something different?
Yeah, so how we would handle single occupancy would be a use, right? So it would be a use that's allowed within a zone. We would pick whichever zone that would be allowed in, for instance, our R7 zone, and therefore somebody could apply for an R7 zoning to convert their home into a single occupancy home where they would allow for up to 7 units per acre, right? And we would do the math and figure out how much they would qualify for that if they have a single home doing that. Or if they want to develop a property to have a single building with 7 units per acre, they would be able to do that as well. So,
so bringing up the fact that we had the conversation about long-term rentals and single renting out by the room just a few weeks prior, we talked about some stipulations. So under this, if we were to use this option, we can still create some stipulations within it.
yeah.
Okay.
We could look at it similar to the way we did the IADU code, which we would allow it with a business license with these provisions and these specifications to the property. We would have to do some research on what is allowed to be regulated and what is not on those types of developments. But I think if you look at the implementation plan, that would give us time to really strategize on how that would work.
Okay, thank you.
Trevor, will you clarify one thing for all of us? And that is, what does a single occupancy development look like? We have a home or homes in the city that are rented out to up to 4 individuals, right? Based on the zoning and the definition there. Are you saying that we would then allow homes to have rentals like that, or are the buildings different than a home style with 4, or now you're saying 7? So just help paint the picture there. So are we opening the door to what we have been fighting against recently?
Yeah, so there would be provisions on what each dwelling would have to have, like their own restroom facilities or own. That's all dependent on what is allowed and what we can put provisions on. But a lot of these, what you'll see is some of these will be like old hotels that are converted into a single occupancy, right? Where they're a contained unit, single room unit that you rent out, but there's not a lot of amenities with those rooms.
But can't we administratively through code make it so that it's just a long-term single occupancy in a residence versus someone coming in and building a small motel type thing?
Yeah, I think
we could administratively do that through our code and how we develop that.
Yeah.
That it doesn't turn into that type of a development. It's more of a use allowed in an existing house.
Right.
Or a new home or whatever.
Well, and there's a code out there right now that talks about whether it's group homes or the flop house, I think is one that they use a lot of times. And we could find some verbiage on it that specifically calls, I think we even have something on it that says you can't create a flop house. with this. So I think as long as we use the code that said, here's the requirements you have to have, number of bedroom, number of bathroom, number of kitchenettes, number of this comparatively. We could probably do that, or we could just say in R7, there is no flop houses, and put that definition in as what those entail.
What I'm trying to highlight is that there is a difference here, right? That we're not opening the door to what we've been fighting against, right? They are different. And so, the council is thinking through those things, and single occupancy development is different than just starting to rent out individual rooms in your home for, long-term stays.
And this is long down the road if we select this. What I would recommend, is perhaps creating its own zoning so that when you grant that, it's the only use that's allowed. So if you rezone a property R7 and then later down the line, they decide to demo the current home and now they have an entitled use to any other of the other uses within R7, then they would be able to put those there. If you feel comfortable in doing that, then that's fine. If that's something that makes you hesitant, then that would be something to consider. So it's really protected though, because it's a use that's granted by the council by a rezone. Right? We don't have these as an allowed use. You can protect them in the rezone, and it's something they would specifically come ask for in that case.
I also think it's important to point out that the implementation plan is the key to all of this, right? It doesn't mean that in our next council meeting, all of a sudden we've got these in the city. It's that the implementation plan allows for time for us to figure this out. And so I think that's an important piece, that these items and these selections, the real key is the implementation plan. And Trevor's been good at thinking through that and creating some time for us to grapple with some of these concepts and find out what works best.
So on that same item, can we not extend that implementation out similar to what you did F?
Oh yeah, we can change those timeframes.
Because then it's out to 2025. I mean, it gives us the chance to go through the general plan and identify areas. That puts it out there far enough that maybe even hopefully things change by then, but that actually makes more sense, because then we get the time to review it.
Yeah, we can put it in the general plan. And
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I was just looking at that timeline, wondering how we were going to make that. So
Great idea.
I'd have the same timing as F, right?
And I
Yeah.
would put it out to 2025.
yeah, we'll include it in the general plan. Yeah, we can definitely have that.
So just, again, one of my concerns is the definition. If we say single occupancy developments, we have an idea what that means. If the Utah legislature defines it suddenly different than what we have, do we have the option of coming back and changing it without looking like we're not a good player?
Yeah, that happens all the time, where we may define something and then the state wants to extend that definition, and so then we have to modify. Sometimes we reference the state for their definition if we feel that it's sufficient enough. And then if the state's definition changes, then we just automatically would adopt that. That's just whatever you feel
But
comfortable.
I think he's saying if we don't want to accept it at all, or change it to something more negative, we want to maybe get rid of I.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
just like the options we had before, if they change just enough that we say that doesn't really apply to us, or we don't like that.
Yeah, and so what would happen when I do my reporting, if we change it that year, I would just report, we decided to discontinue I for these reasons, and we've selected this new option to begin work on, and this is that implementation plan.
And my last comment's a facetious one, but can we get grandfathered in every time we comply? And then when they change the rules, we still get a count, all of our prior moderate income housing?
I think as long
don't
as
have to answer
they don't change what's currently there, we're good.
It is. And I know they're not gonna do it, but it's wrong. That we follow, comply, we get the percentage of moderate income housing or whatever the term was at that time, and then suddenly they changed the rules and now we don't have any. And if we make our community such a wonderful place that people want to come live, and it drives the prices higher and higher, then we're never going to meet it. So anyway,
Well said, Quinn.
it's my complaining, sorry.
Any other comments? If not, then someone would like to make a motion.
All right. Okay, so, Mayor, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 22-44 Moderate Income Housing Plan with the following amendments to include strategies B, E, and I with the implementation timeline for I to match strategy F.
Okay. Have a
So to strike F, to eliminate F, right?
Correct.
okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Wait, do we have a second?
We're looking for a second.
No one wants to second it. I will second it. No one wants to be involved with this. I will second that.
Bad enough I have to say yes to it.
We have a second, and we'll begin with a roll call vote by Councilman Field.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Next item is new business. Anyone have any new business?
I had a question, if I might ask staff, regarding the code enforcement on the RV park. I know there's some changes going on with code enforcement, and I know that we spent some time over there to making sure that certain things weren't going to happen at that park. How is that going to go forward? Can you enlighten how?
What specifically? What do you mean?
So specifically, the long-term units, making sure that they're leaving for the time period that they need to and moving to it. Is staff checking trailers? Are they just checking with management? What is the protocol for that?
Well,
Sure.
I mean, she brings up a very good point, because at one time we talked about that Chris would get a report from the trailer park, or he would go visit the trailer park. With the change of duty in the code enforcement, I just want to make sure that she is getting the report, or we're making contact with them. That was one of my questions for.
Kim has had contact with the RV park. They are proactively enforcing their daily limit. And so she received a report from them on that. So,
Okay.
she's-
Is there any
she's in
visual
contact with them.
inspection from our end of it, or we just?
She hasn't gone out and done the visual inspection, no. I mean, that would be, I mean, she would have to be out there every day monitoring what new ones are and documenting.
You wouldn't have to be out there every day. I mean, we don't have to make it like that. I just drove over there last weekend. They had a trailer sitting out in the main road coming in, because obviously there wasn't enough room. As you go through it, you can see there was no room. The whole back half of it is weeds 4 feet tall. And I don't know if we made anything, but I thought we said that there was going to be no permanent structures outside of the trailers, and there were a number of those. So I don't think you have to go over there every day to be able to do it, but I do think it does take a drive-through once in a while.
Okay. Yeah, we, with private property, we just have to talk to the owners to get permission to enter the property to observe. But yeah, we can make that more of a priority.
And I believe that's in their agreement, the code enforcement has
Okay.
access to that.
I just want to double check.
Yeah,
And again, I know where Lisa's not gonna be doing physical out, I mean, that's.
I mean, she'll be out and
Okay.
about.
Yeah,
She's
there
just-
will-
She's
there
just
will be
not going to
physical
be
Inspection, confronting people.
confronting people on the street. But yeah, she'll be out and about.
it may be worth it to revisit that development, because we did write quite a few provisions just to prevent this. So to not enforce it would be unfortunate. So just something that I was thinking about with the recent changes, to maybe revisit and making sure that it's being enforced.
Yes, we can make that happen. Yes. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
So what prevents, other than just their management, somebody changing from one spot to another spot? I know it's not allowed. but
Nothing other than, they're supposed to leave for 24 hours.
7 days.
7 days.
What was it, 7 days?
Even better, Blair.
I actually thought it was, oh, we better review that development
It's
agreement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll take care of that. We'll look
Give
at that as
Jamie a
staff
minute.
and, it's not something that we plan to turn a blind eye to at all.
Yeah. I've gotten reports that there are those that have not left. And I don't even know if they've been there or what. I don't know the details of it, but we spent a lot of time making sure that we could enforce over there. So just want to make sure that we are.
Yes. I would say that the transition is the thing that is in works. And once Kim is up and running and comfortable there, and we'll have her review all of the documentation and have all the tools to be able to go and approach them appropriately.
Thank you. Chris?
Just prior to this meeting, Trevor and I met and scheduled the time for training late this month with Kim and I. And so we'll make note of these issues and these concerns and make sure they're part of our training so that Kim feels comfortable moving forward and enforcing on these kinds of things.
Any other new business? Go to council. Councilman Beals, you got any reports you'd like to make?
Just wanted to report that the day of service was actually very, it did what we needed it to do and more. They've done a great job down over there by the park. And the trail looks fantastic. A lot of hard work went into it, and it definitely was a big service that was done by all, and we really appreciate it. I think we're going to try to make this more of an annual type of program where we have a list out for those that do want to do it, that want to be able to serve other people and help, that we'll be able to have a list ahead of time so that they can go through, pick and choose, and depending on what kind of level of service we have within the city to be able to provide help for them. I think it'll be a good idea. So.
Great. Yeah, it was great. Appreciate that. Really?
I do not have any new business. I was just going to report on that meeting, but we already covered it. So
When?
I don't have any new business
I have no new business.
Or update.
I have no new business, but I apologize for being late and wearing a hat, but I've been fixing an irrigation line. So,
You're fine. I appreciate you being here. Staff?
Yeah, two things to report. Joel, do you want to talk about today's parks discussion, or would you like me to?
Definitely I can if you like. So we had a meeting earlier this morning, just as it was starting to rain, on the bike track that we have down there. As you know, we have a number of citizens who've really put a lot of time and effort into arranging the piles, making the track, making it a place where the kids can and adults can ride through it. I don't ride through it unless I have my e-bike, and I don't have that yet, so I'm not going to ride through it. But it really has been coming along great. It looks fantastic. We met with them in hopes of being able to kind of get a phase 1 done before winter hits, in which we'll be able to have a water line installed in there to be able to help them as they modify and pack down some of the jumps and stuff that they have. And I think that a lot of progress was made. We've got a lot of work from some citizens that we really should say something about and appreciate when this is all done. And we also have a lot of city work that's going to have to be done to kind of get this all ready for them. So definitely looks like a lot of progress has gone on. Is there anything?
No, I think
to add?
that's great. It's exciting to feel like we are going to have a little bit of a plan to, like you said, get a phase 1 that can be usable, hopefully before the snow flies, and then be able to continue to work and expand that over time, but kind of complete a usable section of the track. And there's a plan for that, which is exciting. I would like to state, as far as the bike track goes, we've already heard kind of comments and rumors, so to speak, about having a volunteer group that is going to own that section of the park and be able to manage it and whatnot. And that is not the case. That is a city owned facility and it will be a city managed and maintained facility. This is a group of residents who have expertise that city staff does not in how to make that a usable and functional space. And so they are volunteering their time to help construct it, but it will then be city owned and operated completely past that point, in case there's any questions that people have. I also was able to communicate with Yesco Signs just earlier today, and we are scheduled for their first section of work on the digital sign the week of October 10th and through 14th. So you know that we're on the schedule, but it's still about a month out, in case you wonder why that isn't changing immediately. And if you didn't get a chance, the Davis 9/11 Remembers event was really spectacular. It was fun to see the South Weber signs and images there. Shout out to Trevor, who was able to put that together and coordinate with them, and the PR committee really did an excellent job in showing South Weber, and we looked good in our role as part of that, and it was really well done, and the event was great. Hope you got a chance to see it.
Who attended that? Anyone attend that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really good. Well, Michael?
That's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that'll probably wrap up our agenda for tonight. We are going into a closed session. There's a new state law that came out that says that after we conclude our closed session, we can close this meeting in that closed session. So we don't have to come out of the closed session and reopen council again. We can close it in that closed session, so.
That was my favorite part.
I'd like to have a motion to go into the.
Mayor, I make a motion that we move into a closed session.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. See you, Michael. Michael. Another Michael, yeah.
Michael, Paul.